Okay, great. All right. Hello, everybody. Hello, Teresa. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Julie Niederhauser, and I'm the Public Library Coordinator for the Alaska State Library. There have been some issues with our WebEx with people joining it, so we are going to go ahead and record this webinar and put it on our archived webinars for librarians website. So anyone who was unable to join will be able to view the recording. So this webinar is charting your own course, and it's all about developing a personal learning plan. So as library professionals, we spend a lot of time and energy supporting self-directed learning opportunities for our library patrons. We know how important it is to turn outward and engage with our community. And these activities ensure that our libraries are developing the meaningful resources and programs that the community needs and wants. But it is also vitally important that we as library professionals develop ourselves so that we possess the skills and knowledge required to deliver the quality services our community members expect and deserve. So during today's webinar, we will be reviewing the 5 steps you may want to follow when charting your own professional development. And these steps involve conducting a regular self-assessment, participating in your performance evaluation reviews, monitoring trends that could impact the library profession, developing a personal learning plan, and seeking learning opportunities that will help you gain new skills and confidence in your abilities. And I also hope that that as we work in organizations, that we share this information with everybody in our organization so that we can encourage everyone who works in the library to continue to develop and grow professionally. Okay, let's see if I can change my slide. Okay, great. So this is a question that we hope folks can enter in the chat box. So let's start by having everyone share one action that they do for their own professional development. And Teresa, if you want to enter in the chat box, or if you just want to share on the microphone, that's fine.
For me, my biggest, what I feel is my biggest professional development is being active in the library community. So I sit on several library boards, and I participate in the Alaska Reads group, and then also attending conference.
Yeah, those are all, professional library developments are fantastic ways to grow professionally. Often you are involved in activities that require you to stretch, whether it's helping with a conference or serving on the scholarship committee or helping select the best Alaskana for the year, which is something that I know you've been involved in, Teresa, for quite some time. So the other things that you can do are, read professional journals, work with a mentor, write articles for News Poke or the Pacific Northwest Library Association Quarterly. Attend conferences, as Tessa said, also follow library trends. Okay, those are just some of the things that you can do. All right, so we're just going to move on here. Oops, wrong direction. So I mentioned library trends, and as we all are very aware, change is the only constant anymore. Everything is changing, and the rate in which things are changing is getting faster and faster. The Center for the Future of Libraries actively works to identify trends relevant to libraries and librarianship. And on the slide are just a few of the trends that they are monitoring. We are fortunate in the first week of March to have Miguel Figueroa from the Center for the Future of Libraries to be in Alaska. He will be in Anchorage, Fairbanks, and Juneau, and he will be giving day-long workshops training librarians on how they can develop skills to watch trends and prepare their libraries for the future. So those workshops are all free. The state library is funding those workshops. And we have a registration form online that people can go to, and I can share that with people later on if they're interested. The International Federation of Library Associations, IFLA, has created some guidelines for continuing professional development. And those guidelines include this very strongly worded statement about why it's so important to stay abreast of the constant change taking place. So this is the statement. The quality and effectiveness of library and information services depend on the expertise of staff, constant flux in the needs of society's changing technologies, and growth in professional knowledge demand that libraries and other information professionals expand their knowledge and update their skills on an ongoing basis. Some other reasons why it's so important to constantly be updating your skills is, we know that technology is changing rapidly, and as employees, we need to constantly upgrade our own skills just to remain current in the positions that we currently have. Our library organizational structures are getting flatter and flatter. So there's fewer opportunities to fewer management positions and opportunities for people to step into those managements and kind of learn the skills as they kind of go up the ladder of success. So as employees, we need to be more flexible and adaptable and creative, and kind of be able to make moves like lateral moves within organizations, because those management positions simply aren't there. And again, the era of high job security is gone. And I think we all know that. So there's a real increased pressure to reduce cost, restructure our organizations, downsize. There's an increased focus on automation, and all of these things will continue to kind of eliminate jobs. And so as workers, we just need to be more flexible and confident in our own abilities, so that whatever's happening within the organization, we're going to be in a position where we can will be useful in some organization in some capacity, right? So things can change around us, but we will feel confident in our own abilities. So all of this means that we have to invest time and energy and money, yes, money, into our own professional development. Oh, I keep going backwards. Sorry about that. Here, okay. So, so it's really, the reality is it can be really hard to focus on your professional development with all of the changes taking place around us, right? Additionally, you may feel like you simply don't have enough time. You're investing all of your time and energy in your job, and you don't have time to take another course or whatever. You may feel like you don't have support from your supervisor, or the library doesn't have money to support you taking courses. So there's a lot of reasons why people don't participate in their own professional development. And I understand that, because sometimes I have the same feeling that we simply don't have enough bandwidth to take on one more thing, right? So the good news with all of that is that we are still responsible for our own professional development. And because we're responsible, we have the ability to shape the plan that works for us where we are right now. And, we get to set our own SMART goals, and everyone should be familiar with the SMART goals. That's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And we can select the actions that will help us achieve those goals, and we get to determine the deadline for meeting those goals. So we can do this. We can make it work for us where we are right now. So all of this does require that we have we do take some initiative and some self-direction, that we do manage the goals that we set and the time it takes to achieve them, and that we are able to work independently and be a self-directed learner. So initiative and self-direction are two of the 21st century skills highlighted in the Museums, Libraries, and 21st Century Skills Project, which was published by the Institute of Museums and Library Services in 2009. So it's been around for a while. And they specified that initiative and self-direction are necessary when implementing a personal learning plan. So, what does that mean? Initiative and self-direction. It's about setting goals. It's about balancing short-term and long-term goals and utilizing our time and managing our workloads efficiently. Working independently is the ability to monitor our own progress, define where we are, prioritize what needs to be done when, and complete tasks without direct oversight. And that's a skill. You know, we all can learn these skills over time. I know the first time that I took a online course, I was kind of at first lost because I was so used to being told what to do when. But then over time, when you just have more practice taking those kind of online courses, you actually get into the flow when you're constantly looking ahead. What do I need to start working on now to achieve that goal later on? Being a self-directed and being a self-directed learner, which really means going beyond basic mastery of skills and exploring and expanding one's own learning and opportunities. And demonstrating initiative to advance skill levels towards a professional goal, and demonstrating a commitment to learning as a lifelong process. And I think as librarians, we are already committed to that because this is the work that we do, right? We support others achieving their lifelong learning. The competency index for the library field, compiled by WebJunction, includes learning and innovation competencies. And these include managing the development of one's own learning, the ongoing improvement of skills and knowledge, and demonstrated critical thinking and problem solving abilities. So let's just really think about this for a minute. So you're developing a learning and innovation, you're developing a learning plan. And when you create your personal learning plan, you're also demonstrating these 21st century skills of initiative and self-direction. When you set your own personal learning goals, when you monitor your own progress, and when you work independently. So all of these activities demonstrate your commitment to lifelong learning and advancement of your skills and knowledge. So it's one of those cases in which embarking on this activity actually helps you gain the skills and competencies that you need. So we've discussed why nurturing your professional development is important and what it requires from you. And so let's kind of talk about the process. So the first step is conducting an honest self-assessment of your abilities. So some of you may be familiar with conducting a SWOT analysis to learn about your library's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And the self-analysis is a similar activity, but on a personal level. So what are your professional strengths and weaknesses? Think about your work and your library's mission. What are some of the things that you do to help your library achieve its mission? What are some of the opportunities available to you at the library that would allow you to expand your skills and contribute more towards that mission? One of the things I'll be sharing with you later on is the Yale University's Individual Development Planning Guide to Getting Started. And they have this terrific little graph or image in there. And what it shows is that the ingredients for professional development, it's kind of, and they have the three circles. So the first one's competence, the second one is organizational needs, and the third one is passion. And your professional development plan is kind of the intersection of those three things: competence, organizational needs, and passion. And there's some questions that says, where do I want to be? What am I great at? What does the organization need? What do I love doing? What energizes me? And what is important to learn or get better at? And I really think this is a great booklet. I've included it in the resources, and I can share this link with you right now. All right. So, so in the article, Changing Careers Successfully, Tips for Taking Your Career in a New Direction, Renee Francis suggests drawing up a professional and personal overview or summary of your experience and skills. Another way, or maybe a more effective way to conduct a self-assessment may be to compare your abilities against professional standards for the type of work or position that you have. And if you aspire to move up in your organization or want to make a lateral move, you can conduct a self-assessment related to the responsibilities for the new position. The American Library Association Library Competencies web page includes links to competency lists for a variety of library specializations like reference, children's services, leadership and management, and youth services. And these are just some of them. And you're probably familiar. I think most of us are familiar with the Web Junction Competency Index for the library field and the Institute, the 21st Century Skills, because it's been out there for so long. But there's a lot of other ones as well. So the benefits of kind of a competency-based approach to professional development are that it really provides a structure for you to work in. So you're focusing on specific competencies for a specific job, and it's not overly broad. So it's very, it's a structure, it's very focused. You're only looking at the competencies for that position. And it really will kind of help you identify any gaps in your skill set and also help you identify where your skills are, right? And I'm going to share this one link with you. Library competencies. Okay. So Tessa, are you familiar with these competencies? I see you. I can't hear you though.
Sorry, I was trying to get, I clicked on the link and then I was trying to get back to you. I remember them from quite a while ago, but it's nice to be refreshed.
Right. They're also helpful when you're developing job descriptions and you're trying to decide what is a person going to be doing in this position, and you know, how would I know whether they're being successful or not? It's another good reason to use them. Okay. So once you've selected the competency you're going to use for your self-assessment, again, you're going to identify the strengths that you have, areas that you need to work on or develop, and any gaps that you have. So it's kind of just kind of the same thing. So select the competency that applies to the work you do or you aspire to do. Okay, so another way to gauge an understanding of your strengths and areas you may want to work on is through your performance evaluations. So this is so you say performance evaluations, a lot of people kind of like pale, like, oh no. But I want to share this definition of performance appraisal, and it's from businessjargons.com, because I think it does a good job of describing how performance evaluations are a process, but that it's a process based on some subjective criteria, right? So performance appraisal or evaluation is a process in which the personality and performance of an employee is assessed by the supervisor or manager against predefined standards, such as knowledge of the job, quality and quantity of output, leadership abilities, attitude towards work, attendance, cooperation, judgment, versatility, health, initiative, and so forth. So, you know, some of those things are things that you can kind of control, right? But some of them might be a little bit subjective. Performance evaluations provide employers with information they can use to justify personnel decisions, such as promotion, salary increases, or termination. And they also provide employees with information they can use to develop professionally if they are involved in that performance evaluation. So the question is, how often do you receive a performance evaluation from your supervisor? So Tessa, I know you are in a new job, but in the past, was it an annual evaluation, biannual? How did it work?
Yeah, so when I was at the Anchorage Museum, it was an annual.
Yeah.
Or it was supposed to be an annual, but it didn't always turn out to be annual. And that wasn't tied to any kind of merit increase or whatnot. Unlike my job now, it's definitely annual, and it does come with a merit increase.
Oh, very nice. Okay, so I've been in places too where it was an annual every year at the same at the same month every year you were going to have this evaluation. And I had a lot of different supervisors, so that process was really different. Some supervisors would notify you in advance and have you like share what did you accomplish in the year or whatever. Other times it was like out of the blue. You had no idea what was coming. So it really depends on who that supervisor was and their how comfortable they were with the process.
I find it interesting too, the difference between working at my old job and this job. So my old job, it was the evaluation was done by the supervisor, whereas this job, you do a self-evaluation and then the supervisor tacks on comments and gives a score. So I thought that was interesting.
That is really different. I haven't heard of it. Okay. So there are some issues and limitations with performance evaluations, and I think it's important to understand those. So in preparing for this presentation, I was doing some reading and I came across this article, The Death of the Performance Appraisal, and it was written by Bob Keller. And he describes one of the major issues with performance evaluations for him anyway, is that it's kind of a rear view mirror view. It's all focused in the past. What did you do in the past? Rather than kind of what he calls a windshield or focused on current plans to develop the employee's skills and engagements. He believes a yearly or twice yearly conversation is always dependent on trailing indicators and that goals are subject to change as new organizational priorities emerge. And I can tell you, one of the things at my job is that we do set, like, what are your goals for the coming year? And you set these goals, but then things can change wildly. And so sometimes, the goals that you set, 6 months ago really aren't in alignment with what's happening now. So some of the issues surrounding performance evaluations, which were raised in the 1994 article, Performance Evaluation, a Deadly Disease, written by Rao Alluri and Mary Reichel, still ring true today. So performance appraisals are a source of anxiety for staff members and are stressful to supervisors. Supervisors are hesitant and uncomfortable in accepting their responsibility to judge the performance of other people. Library literature on performance evaluation is full of references to fear and anxiety. Library employees distrust the performance appraisal system. They have a perception it's a a meaningless process and highly prone to the halo effect. So I wasn't familiar with the halo effect when I first read this, so I looked it up. And the halo effect occurs when managers have an overly positive view of a particular employee, and this can impact objective reviews, with the managers consistently giving the particular employee they have an overly positive view of high ratings and failing to recognize areas of improvement. So the opposite of the halo effect is the horn effect. And this is a form of cognitive bias that causes one's perception of another to be unduly influenced by a single negative trait. So maybe you have an employee who, I don't know, this person's always late or something. And even though they're fabulous in every other area, that one trait just really bothers you. So you always score them lower than other people. So, some employees are afraid that if they ask their supervisor questions, they're going to get into trouble. That so what they do instead is they play it safe and they don't raise any questions or rock the boat. And again, another issue with performance evaluations is it's a short-term thinking. It's undue focus on the short-term goal of looking good at the next performance evaluation meeting. So instead of really working towards for the organization, they're just working for that evaluation and playing it and safe. Okay, so those are some of the issues with performance evaluations. So what can we do to minimize some of these issues? So again, Bob Keller, the author of The Death of the Performance Appraisal, he recommends scheduling more frequent and less formal meetings with staff throughout the year. He also recommends having employees set quarterly goals instead of yearly ones. Rao Lurie and Mary Reichel, they suggest educating managers and supervisors in leadership principles and their obligations. Conducting lengthy interviews with every employee to develop a shared understanding of the work that is being done at the various levels of the organization, and using employee performance data to improve the system as a whole, but not using it to rank employees. The IFLA guidelines for continuing professional development state that self-assessment combined with regular performance appraisals conducted by supervisors and related to the organization's mission and strategic planning could give librarians guidance in developing personal learning plans. The performance review, however, is not useful if it's not germane to the job or fails to involve the employee in honest discussion. So performance evaluations do provide employees with information they can use to develop professionally if they are allowed time during the evaluation process to talk to their supervisor about how their position supports the library mission, what they are doing well and what they can improve upon, and if they work with their supervisor to set some future goals. It's very important the library staff are provided time to have this conversation with their supervisor. And I mentioned the Yale individual development planning guide. They have a whole section devoted to talking to your supervisor. And they have, and we're going to look at the slide. I think it's the next one right here. So they've developed, they have a section in the guide about how important it is to include your supervisor in the development of your personal learning plan. And it all starts with having a conversation with them. But before you actually sit down and have that conversation with them, you have the employee and the manager use this tool to kind of frame that conversation. And on this slide are some of the questions that each person, the employee is going to answer and the supervisor. So the employee, one of the questions for the employee is where I see myself in the future, my career and professional goals. They write those down. And for the manager, the question is where the manager sees the employee in the future, growing in the current job or taking on new responsibilities. And it kind of goes down through these series of questions to the very end where based on these questions that are developed individually, and then you sit down and have a conversation, you're going to develop a plan that works for the employee, that is achievable by the employee, that benefits the organization, and has the manager's support. And I think this is just a really fabulous little tool. Even though it was developed for Yale, people working at Yale, I think it could be easily modified for any library. See if I'm missing anything from my notes. Making sure that I include everything here. So again, this little booklet, it explains the individual's role in creating and directing their professional development, and importantly stresses how the personal development planning is a process that the individual directs in partnership with their supervisor. And the reason it's important to include your supervisor in your professional development plan is you want and need their honest feedback and their support, and they will help you develop a personal learning plan that's achievable and will help you contribute to the needs of the library. Okay. So we know there's a lot of changes taking place in librarianship. And so the question is, how do you stay abreast of these changes taking place? Tessa, is there anything that you do to stay abreast of the changes taking place?
Just going through the literature, the different professional publications that are coming out when I have time.
That's for sure. And actually, conferences are terrific.
Yeah, and conference.
I love going to conferences and finding out what kind of things are taking place. Okay. So earlier I mentioned the Center for the Future of Libraries identifies trends that have the potential of impacting libraries or librarianship. They publish a Library of the Future blog post, and those blog posts have focused on, news headlines and current articles describing new technologies, changes in user expectations, and privacy and surveillance concern. Some other places where you could find out, the State of America's Library is an annual summary of library issues and trends. It's released during National Library Week, which is in April. The Public Library Data Service, the PLDS annual survey is conducted by Counting Opinions on behalf of the Public Library Association. And each year the survey includes a special section. And these reports are based on survey data that is 2 years old, but it's still pretty good data. TechSoup is another good source for finding out trends that are impacting libraries and nonprofits. Jim Lynch of TechSoup writes an annual blog post on nonprofit technology trends, and he also leads a webinar on the most important trends affecting libraries and nonprofits for the coming year. I really like Steve Thomas's Circulating Ideas podcast. So these are librarian interview podcasts, and it's just another way to monitor changes that are taking place in librarianship. He has a wide variety of librarians that he interviews. Trendwatching.com monitors consumer trends from around the world. And the M-Word Marketing Libraries blog written by Kathy Dempsey highlights marketing best practices and initiatives. So some other things you can do, attend conferences, webcasts, podcasts, networking with other people in the field, library tech trends for 2019. You can look that up. It's online. So there's a lot of different ways to keep up with what's going on. So so you've conducted a competency-based self-analysis, reviewed past performance evaluations, you've been monitoring trends, and now it's time to develop a personal learning plan that will lead to both improvement in your current performance and future career advancement. So what you want to do is identify personal learning objectives for the year, kind of plan and record learning activities and outcomes, and evaluate the progress in which the learning objectives have been achieved over the past year. Any questions about that? It's pretty straightforward. I don't know. If you're not sure what that would look like, you can again go to the Yale booklet, and there is an example of example of a completed individual learning plan, and then there's the form that you could use. And again, it's just a great model for you to use. You can make it work for your library situation. So for, the professional goals and motivations, the questions are, what are my professional growth and career aspirations? And how do I think these aspirations can best be met? What are my talents? What are my strengths? What knowledge or skills do I need to enhance? What development goals do I have for the next 12 months, for the next 5 years? And what specific actions can I take to achieve these goals? So I think that when you are developing your goals, you need to have I think a year is too long personally. I think it's better to have shorter goals because, 6 months. What can I do in 6 months? Believe it or not, 6 months can go pretty quickly, but still, it's enough time to plan, take action, and it's not so far into the future that you're going to just forget about it and never achieve it. So when developing your personal learning plan, begin by listing your development goals. Describe how these goals relate to your library's mission. This step is important if you're going to be asking for any support from your library to attend a conference or register for a training course. Identify the specific skills you plan on developing. This will keep your activities targeted to those skills. Set incremental deadlines for achieving those goals every 2 months or 3 months or 6 months rather than 1 year. And be sure to include the resources, the training course, a conference, a meeting, a book or article that you'll be using to meet your goals. So as I mentioned before, as library professionals, we are committed to lifelong learning and professional development. And this means that over time, you may feel you have gained mastery in all of the skills required for your present position and are ready to move into something new. In the article, Changing Careers Successfully, Tips for Taking Your Career in a New Direction by Renee Francis, she kind of describes the main reasons why people change careers. So the main driving force behind career changes is a search for meaning. Finding a purpose in our daily lives is a quintessentially human concern, and with good reason. Given that working is no longer just a way to earn a living, but it also contributes significantly to our overall well-being. During the course of our career, we may find that the passion that used to drive us has waned, or that our values no longer align with those of the company that we work for and its culture. And this can lead to a lack of motivation and ambition and frustration with the tasks that we are giving. At its core, a search for meaning is about feeling valued, believing that your work is worthwhile, and feeling useful. And I included this because it's not, for those of us, particularly if we're supervisors, if we have staff, we need to take this and think about us, but we need to think about this and also about the people that work for us or with us in our organizations. What are we doing to make sure that the people that work with us feel valued, that they feel that the work that they are doing has meaning and that they have a purpose? They're not just cogs in a wheel. And believe it or not, that idea that people are just irreplaceable cogs, it's still present in our culture, and we need to know that everybody brings something unique to the job. Everybody has unique strengths, and then if we're good, we can really identify those strengths, help people recognize it in themselves, and help them to just achieve amazing things. So a personal learning plan will help you develop the skills and mastery needed for your present position, or it will help you prepare for a new one. And charting your own course begins with an honest, competency-based self-assessment of your skills and knowledge, a review of your past performance evaluations, and developing a personal learning plan with SMART goals. So that's what I was here to present today. Tess, do you have any questions?
Yeah. So, did you send out handouts? I'm sorry if I didn't do that before. Okay.
I can send you, Tess, I can send you a copy of my PowerPoint presentation, and I can also here in the text box. Do you see the chat box?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have links. I'm gonna include. There's the very first one is to the Yale guide.
Yes,
The
that
second
one
one
is really
is competencies.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to share, this is also the IFLA
Yes.
continuing ed.
Yeah. That whole section that you had, the library competency resources.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will send you those as PowerPoint.
Okay.
Because I don't think, let me see. Yeah, I tried to include them on the slide. It was too long. So I can send that to you separately. And
Okay.
when we post this on the web, we'll have links to these as well.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Great. Other than that, it was great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you were able to make it. Okay, thank you very much. Hope you have a good day.
Thank you. Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.